The HOA president called my flowers unauthorized biomass. Now he wakes up to donkeys guarding my crops. The sound of a ruler slapping against a blade of grass is a sound you only recognize if you live in Oak Creek Estates. It's a sharp, crisp thwack that echoes down the cul-de-sac every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., signaling that Bill, the HOA president and retired city planner with a Napoleon complex the size of Texas, is on patrol. I stood at my kitchen window, coffee mug in hand, watching him. He was wearing his signature khaki shorts, a polo shirt tucked in with military precision, and holding a yellow plastic ruler against the edge of my lawn. He stood up. He pulled a notebook from his pocket. He scribbled something with a pen that looked expensive. Then, he walked up my driveway. He didn't knock. He taped a bright orange envelope to my front door with blue painter's tape. I sighed, put down my coffee, and walked to the door. I peeled the envelope off. It was heavy. Violation notice, unauthorized biomass/noxious weeds. Description, milkweed patch in Sector 4, front left. Fine, $1,000. Remedy, remove all unauthorized vegetation within 48 hours and replace with standard Kentucky bluegrass or a state-sanctioned agricultural product. Failure to comply will result in a lien on the property. Biomass? I whispered to the empty hallway. I walked out to the Sector 4 in question. It was a small, 3x3 patch of native milkweed I had planted for the monarch butterflies. It was blooming. It was beautiful. It was teeming with life. Bill was standing on the sidewalk, watching me. He had a smug little grin plastered on his face. "Morning, Eric," he called out. "Got the note?" "I got it, Bill," I said, waving the orange envelope. $1,000. For flowers? "They aren't flowers, Eric," Bill corrected me, stepping onto the edge of my driveway but being careful not to cross the property line. "They are weeds. Milkweed. It's in the name. It promotes chaos. We have a visual standard to maintain. Uniformity is value." "It's for the butterflies," I said, feeling the heat rise in my neck. "Butterflies don't pay dues," Bill sniffed. "Get rid of it. You have 2 days. Or I call the lawyers. And Eric? Don't try to fight it. The bylaws are ironclad. Bluegrass or agriculture? Those are your choices." "Agriculture," I repeated. "Yes. If you want to grow tomatoes in a pot, fine. But that jungle? It goes." He turned and walked away, his ruler swinging by his side like a sword. I went back inside. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the letter. State-sanctioned agricultural product. Bill thought he had checkmated me. He thought I would fold, hire a landscaper, and lay down sod like every other obedient drone in the neighborhood. He thought he could bully me into submission with a ruler and a fine. He forgot one thing. I'm a researcher. I spend my life reading the fine print that other people ignore. I opened my laptop. I didn't look for sod prices. I looked for the definition of state-sanctioned agriculture. I fell down a rabbit hole. State codes. Zoning laws. And then, buried in the depths of the State Historic Grain Preservation Act of 2019, I found it. Section 14, the Living Museum Exemption. Any property utilized for the cultivation, preservation, or study of heritage grains recognized by the State Agricultural Board shall be classified as experimental agricultural land. Such land is exempt from municipal aesthetic ordinances and private association covenants that hinder the research. Experimental agricultural land. Exempt from covenants. I leaned back in my chair. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. "Okay, Bill," I whispered. "You want agriculture? I'll give you agriculture." I didn't just order seeds. I contacted the State University's Agricultural Extension. I applied for a grant. Not for money, but for status. I registered my address, 402 Maple Drive, as an official heritage seed saving site for a rare, multicolored variety of corn called glass gem. The approval came in an email 2 days later. Status, approved. Site code, EXP 4922. I printed the certificate. I framed it. Then, I went to the hardware store. I didn't buy grass seed. I bought a rototiller. I waited until Saturday morning. 7 a.m. The time Bill liked to sleep in. I fired up the rototiller. The machine roared to life, tearing into the standard Kentucky bluegrass of my front lawn. I shredded it. I turned the manicured green carpet into a churning sea of dark brown earth. Bill's front door flew open. He ran out in his bathrobe. "Eric," he screamed over the engine noise. "What are you doing?" "I killed the engine." The silence was ringing. "Morning, Bill," I said, wiping sweat from my forehead. "Just complying with the notice. Removing the weeds." "You're destroying the lawn." Bill shrieked, pointing at the mud. "You're turning it into a pigsty. I'm fining you $5,000. I'm putting a lien on your house today." "Actually," I said, walking over to the mailbox where I had taped a large, laminated document. "You can't. Watch me. Read the sign, Bill." Bill marched over. He looked at the document. It was the university certificate. Official agricultural research site. Protected by state law. "What is this?" Bill sputtered. "Research? You live in a subdivision." "Not anymore," I smiled. "According to the state of my state, this is now an experimental farm. I am cultivating glass gem corn for genetic preservation. And under the Right to Farm Act, which this designation triggers, your bylaws don't apply here. No fines. No rulers. Just corn." Bill stared at the paper. His face turned a violent shade of purple. "You can't grow corn in the front yard. It'll be 8 feet tall." 12, I corrected him. "It's a tall variety. Very majestic." "I'll sue you." Bill yelled. "I'll sue you into the ground." "You can try," I said. "But you'll be suing the university too. They're my partners." Bill looked at the mud. He looked at me. He realized he had opened a door he couldn't close. "This isn't over," he hissed. "No," I agreed. "It's just planting season." He literally asked for it. The corn went in the ground on Sunday. Rows and rows of it, planted with mathematical precision right up to the edge of the sidewalk. I didn't leave a buffer of grass. I used every inch of the research zone. Monday morning, the cease and desist arrived. A courier handed it to me at 9 a.m. Oak Creek HOA versus Eric. Demand to cease agricultural activities immediately. I laughed. I threw it on the pile of compostable materials. Then, I called the fence company. I had found another clause in the university grant. Section 4, Genetic Purity. To prevent cross-pollination from inferior commercial strains or ornamental grasses, research sites must be secured by a non-permeable or fine mesh barrier of at least 6 feet in height. A barrier. The HOA rules strictly forbade fences in the front yard. Open sight lines, they called it. But state law superseded HOA rules when it came to agricultural biosecurity. The fence crew arrived at noon. They weren't installing a cute white picket fence. They were installing industrial-grade, galvanized steel chain link with a privacy mesh insert. It looked like the perimeter of a prison camp. Bill came out as they were digging the post holes. He looked like he was having a stroke. "A fence," he screamed. "You cannot put a chain link fence in the front yard. It's a class of violation. It's a biosecurity measure, Bill," I shouted over the sound of the auger. Mandated by the state. I have to protect the genetic integrity of the corn. I can't have your inferior grass pollen contaminating my research. Inferior grass. Bill looked like he was going to explode. My grass is zoysia. It's award-winning. It's a contaminant, I said dismissively. The fence stays. By 5 p.m., my house was a fortress. A 6-foot gray wall surrounded my front yard. You couldn't see the porch. You couldn't see the windows. You could only see the fence. Bill stood on his lawn, staring at it. He looked defeated. He looked small. But I wasn't done. The corn grew fast. By July, it was 6 feet tall. By August, it was 10. It was a wall of green, rustling in the wind, whispering secrets to the neighborhood. The birds came. The bugs came. The ecosystem I had destroyed with the rototiller was rebuilding itself, stronger and wilder than before. Bill tried to get the city involved. He called code enforcement. The inspector came out. He looked at the fence. He looked at the corn. He looked at my certificate. Everything seems to be in order, the inspector told Bill, who was hovering nervously on the sidewalk. It's a registered farm. Hands are tied. It's an eyesore. Bill wailed. It's science, the inspector shrugged. But the final blow, the coup de grace, came in September. I was reading the livestock section of the Right to Farm Act. Section 9, Guardian Animals. Agricultural sites are permitted to house livestock guardian animals to protect crops from pests, deer, and unauthorized entry. Guardian animals. I did some research. What protects corn? Donkeys. Miniature donkeys. They are fierce. They hate coyotes. They hate deer. And they are loud. I found a breeder in the next county. I need 2, I told him. Guardians. For corn, the breeder asked, confused. It's very valuable corn, I said. They arrived on a Tuesday. 2 miniature Mediterranean donkeys. I named them Law and Order. I put them in the front yard. Inside the fence. They loved it. They had shade from the corn. They had grass, the weeds I let grow between the rows. And they had voices. HHAW. The sound echoed through the cul-de-sac like a foghorn. It was primal. It was undeniable. Bill came out. He didn't scream this time. He just stood there, staring at the donkey that was currently chewing on a corn stalk and staring back at him through the chain link. Eric, Bill said. His voice was broken. Please. They're working, Bill, I said from behind the fence. Protecting the research. It smells like a barn, Bill whispered. It smells like freedom, I corrected him. The HOA sued me, of course. They spent $50,000 of the reserve fund trying to get an injunction. We went to court. The judge looked at the photos. He looked at the certificate. He looked at the donkeys. Mr. Eric, the judge said, fighting a smile. Are these donkeys necessary for the corn? Absolutely, Your Honor, I said. The deer population in Oak Creek is out of control. Without law and order, the research would be compromised. And the fence? Biosecurity. Cross-pollination. The judge turned to the HOA lawyer. Counselor, the Right to Farm Act is very broad in this state. It was written to protect farmers from suburban sprawl. It seems your client is the sprawl. But it's a subdivision, the lawyer argued. It's not a farm. It is now, the judge ruled. Case dismissed. Bill resigned the next week. He put his house on the market. He couldn't take it. He couldn't take the braying at sunrise. He couldn't take the wall of green. He moved to a condo. A high-rise. Somewhere without dirt. I harvested the corn in October. It was beautiful. Glass gem corn looks like jewels, purple, pink, blue. I made popcorn. I ground it into meal. I sent a bag of the cornmeal to Bill's new address. I attached a note. From the research lab. Enjoy. I still live there. The donkeys are local celebrities. The kids in the neighborhood come by to feed them carrots, through the fence. The HOA leaves me alone. They know better. They know I have a binder full of statutes and a rototiller in the garage. My yard isn't manicured. It isn't uniform. It's a farm. And every time I hear HHAW in the morning, I know I won. So, tell me. Am I the monster for turning my suburban lawn into a donkey sanctuary to destroy my HOA president, or did he just reap what he sowed?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.